I'll be happy if...
But maybe happiness isn't all it's cracked up to be.
Fill in your blank.
The things that you think might affect it
We have made happiness the goal,
really don't.
instead of letting it just be the emotion that it is.
I'll be happy when. The if-when syndrome.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to episode 77 of Truth Be Told. What a joy it is to be here, especially this week, because we're talking about happiness. So it's interesting. During the first week, we talked about how for lots of people growing up, like you were only allowed to express one emotion, and that's happiness. If it's anything else, don't share it, don't show it, and don't even be here if you can't represent happiness or anything. Everything else has to kind of stay hidden. But it's interesting because when we want to lean into more happiness, the best way to fully experience it is by experiencing all those other emotions that we were told were bad and to hide. And as we suppress those and push them down, it contributes to our lack of happiness. So the happiness that we have or we think we have is always kind of tainted by those repressed emotions. So that's interesting. As one of our favorite people has taught, Brene Brown, she has expressed how sometimes we want to numb emotions. So when we're having those tough ones, like like sadness or depression or anger, like we want to suppress that and numb it a little bit with whatever different vices or ways we have of doing that. But the thing is, when you numb one, you numb them all. So again, in order to really enrich your happiness, it's important to look at all those emotions just mindfully, allow them to be what they are, witness them, and then that really contributes to a more well-rounded experience and actually leads to more happiness. So let's see what we have to say about it this week. Thanks for tuning in. Sit back and enjoy Truth Be Told.
So let me tell you a little story about what I call the if-when syndrome. Now, I can speak really strongly about this because this has shown up in my life. And I'm pretty sure it's probably shown up in your life as well. You know what I'm talking about, the I'll be happy if, fill in your blank, or I'll be happy when, fill in another blank. And so for me, I've seen times in my life where I've really kind of fallen into this syndrome. I'm in a job and I'm not happy. So I'll be happy when I have another job, or I'll be happy when this happens. And then what happens is you get another job, or you're in another relationship, or you get that thing that you want that you think is going to make you happy. And I'm speaking to myself as well. And then we realize, oh wait, that doesn't make me happy either. So for me, I'm learning, and this is from my own personal story, I'm learning that happiness is less this kind of feeling or emotion that I have or feel when I get whatever, or when this thing works out, or when this to-do list is checked off. But instead, I'm really discovering that happiness for me is my ability to see the wholeness of life. So when I'm able to unclench or release this kind of tight grip on what I have for my life, or the expectations of how things should be, then I'm able to kind of relax into life. And this is not to say that everything is going to go well, or everything is going to be exactly how I want it, but I'm learning more and more that happiness is not an absence of sadness. Happiness is not an absence of fear. Happiness is not an absence of all the other emotions that we may feel that we don't want to feel. Happiness is not an absence of those, but instead for me, it's this ability to look at the wholeness and fullness of life and allow things to be as they are. Allow myself to feel things as I feel them. Allow myself to exercise some curiosity when those things show up in my experience. And then when I've exercised that power of curiosity, it's really amazing. These things come to the surface of my experience for me to look at and for me to evaluate and for me to reflect on. And oftentimes it is underlying beliefs or fears or ideas of playing small or worthiness, all those things that sometimes kind of get embedded in our minds and our bodies that really prevent us from kind of stepping fully into life. And so when those come to the surface, I can see them for what they are, and then I can allow them to move through me, and I can step from this space of knowing. And so for me, I've discovered that's what happiness is. It's the ability just to breathe into life, to allow life to flow, to make decisions and operate from this space, from the space of knowing that there always is something going on, always this fullness of our experience, this fullness of this universal presence that is back of all things. And so happiness can be found, for me at least, in allowing, in the knowing, in the stepping into this space, and knowing that this is what life's about. It is the depth and the breadth and the texture of all of our experiences. And when I see it for what it is, yeah, I'm happy.
Loved it.
I feel called out.
Yeah.
I was thinking of you.
Yeah, right. If, when. Yeah, man, that's... well, first I'll say I smiled at the end. Like, that just made me, oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
And you
okay,
see
good.
other people happy, your friends happy. It's like, oh, yeah, it's so cool. Yeah, I feel that, man, that whole if-when thing, that's been a really big deal. Yeah, if this happened, when this happens, then I'll... And not just happening, I mean, that's been, all kinds of stuff, right? Like,
Right.
I'll feel successful when, I'll feel enough when, I'll feel happy when,
It makes me think about, a lot of people talk about how great life is. Life's great, then let's live it. And then they end up like wishing half of it away. Like, I wish it was Friday. Dude, it's only Monday. Like, you're wishing away like 5 days. Wishing away. It'll be great when my kids are 18 and out of the house. Like, dude, they're only going to be this age once. And, I say that like I, have this all under control. But,
Yeah, isn't that that is like the birthplace of discontent, wanting something other than what is.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, I mean, you can get in that loop, you can get sucked down into that loop real quick. And then what you're left with is just this kind of icky discontent, I don't know, just weird energy. And then you live your life and look back and you've like kind of wished your life away. You've wished or wanted, or you've waited, or you've played small, or you're like, when I have enough, whatever, then I'll do that, and then the reality is it's never enough. If our thing is based on those measurables, it's never going to be enough. It's never going to be the perfect time or the whatever. It's never going to be enough. So yeah, I haven't mastered it either, but for me, it's been just an interesting concept to look at.
Yeah.
Maybe to actually let it sink in maybe 2% of the time so far, but it's continuing to kind of look in that direction, like, oh, there it is again. Oh, there it is again.
Yeah.
And to be able to come back to the now. And I think that's happy. That's everything. It's in this moment.
Yeah. Well, it is to have that nugget, that moment of speaking from that other side, right? Like, well, actually, even earlier today, we were texting back and forth about putting this whole thing together like we do every week. And I was like, man, it may be tedious doing this one thing, but it's a lot of fun,
Right.
and it kind of got me to think back to when we first started doing Tuesday nights. It was almost like the entire week revolved around preparing for Tuesday night.
Mm-hmm.
And so everything was getting ready for Tuesday night. But
Right.
then there was this, for me, I don't know if this was for you at all, but the preparation like dominated the actual experience of Tuesday night. And so Tuesday night came and went, and then it was right back into like getting ready for next Tuesday.
Right.
I don't know when that started to change, but being able to like, today was like, oh wow, I really, and for a while have really enjoyed the process of preparing for Tuesday night. And like Tuesday nights have not, I don't know that they ever really were stressful, but I have not had this like hectic feeling about preparation for it in a long time. It's like, wow, that's a really cool thing. Like I have the rest of the week back.
Well, and also I think we, and since we're having that experience now, then for me, it feels like you're just kind of marinating in the actual, not only the experience of it, but actually the message, the things that we're talking about, actually seeing how that's outpictured in life. And so I think that is, the more that we can have those moments of awareness, then the more that we can like live in the experience. And I think that's where this happiness and fulfillment and contentment comes from.
Yep.
I think so.
The whole picture.
The whole thing.
In other news, it seems only appropriate to include Johnny Depp in the news this week. I know this looks like a clip from your favorite Pirates of the Caribbean movie, but this was actually taken just last week as Johnny Depp was seen running to his happy place to get away from Amber Heard. Much like Johnny Depp, it seems for many, our own happy place is getting harder and harder to find. But maybe happiness isn't all it's cracked up to be. People are obsessed with finding happiness. Could the pursuit of happiness be leading us astray? What if putting all of this importance on being happy is actually just highlighting all of the places we are unhappy and encourages us to ignore those real experiences? Faking a smile and rolling with it might not be the best option. In fact, a constant pressure to be happy actually introduces more stress and takes away any current feeling of happiness. Worse, it introduces a sense that we are somehow doing it all wrong. If we are supposed to be happy all the time, but can't, then obviously we're doing something wrong. At least that's the message. And in walks toxic positivity, the very unrealistic expectation that somehow we're only ever supposed to have positive thoughts, positive experiences, and positive emotions. Well, guess what? This monkey is right. I like cake too. It is as if we have made happiness the goal instead of letting it just be the emotion that it is. We are regularly bombarded with the message that being happy is the goal, and you should probably be trying to do it all the time. You should live a happy life, work in a happy place, raise happy people. And honestly, how am I supposed to keep up with the happiness Joneses when we got this guy over here being booped on the nose by a baby elephant? I mean, come on, what is more happy than that? Somewhere along the line, we forgot that happiness is an emotion and not a state of mind. As if we could somehow be taught how to be happy. As if it isn't just something that happens naturally. It is part of being human to experience happiness in our body from time to time. In fact, it is part of being human to experience all emotions from time to time. We have a constant cycle of emotions running through us, and when left alone to do its thing, an emotional response will run its course in 90 seconds. We could certainly relive happy moments in our minds over and over, but unless you are this little doggo, how could anyone sustain that on an ongoing basis? Here is the great news. When we allow ourselves to build healthy relationships with our emotions and work to heal the story and the trauma around past experiences that have attached themselves to our emotions, Then we are able to enjoy a deepened experience of all of our emotions. Allowing ourselves to experience the 90 seconds of sadness or grief or whatever it is that maybe we've been avoiding, this also brings a much greater experience of happiness when it is happiness's turn. A constant state of happiness is not the goal. It is unrealistic and actually creates the opposite of what we are striving for. Instead, let's strive for a healthy understanding of all of our emotions and allow space for joy, the enjoyment of our whole experience. This has been In Other News. Thanks for watching.
Yep. I can go for that.
I love that. I love the we do get caught up in that this happiness is this state of mind. And I like the reminder that it is an emotion, just like all the other emotions, and it has the same value as all of the other emotions. And like that all of those are like this big swirling ball of our experience.
Right.
You know? And so, yeah, Lord, if happiness is the goal, then you miss out on all of the texture of things, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that lets me off the hook when we kind of shift that framework that it is an actual motion, a reaction. It's not an actual like mindset per se, because Lord, who could be happy all the time? So you
Right.
feel like you are failing all the time.
All the time.
That's not
Well, and that's
possible.
and how common is that? I mean,
Especially in spiritual communities. How
Yeah.
common is that?
yeah,
Let's just call ourselves out. I mean, it's true.
yeah. And I think what has helped me with that for a while already is the difference between happiness and joy. And
Yeah.
joy is a like state of being.
Mm-hmm.
You can live in joy. And what really came to me in kind of prepping for this is the word, like we to enjoy, right? We get to enjoy our emotions. And so when I am in this state of joy, we get to enjoy all of the emotions.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like when we confuse joy with happiness and we're striving for those fleeting moments of things that kick off all those happy chemicals, that's a really different experience than living from a state of joy. Not that everything has to be like the happy, perfect kind of thing all the time,
Right.
but if we're coming from that place of enjoyment, from that place of joy, then we get to enjoy even the things that otherwise wouldn't feel great. And that's like a whole other experience of life.
Mm-hmm.
From the few times I've been there and done that.
So one thing that came up for me there,
You want
actually two things.
You want a baby elephant?
Oh yeah,
I
that definitely.
I need one. I'll trade anybody 2 dogs for one right now. I got dogs here.
That's a good deal.
Yeah. Okay. Well, actually, it is kind of like along the lines of an elephant. So at first I thought about Eeyore and the Winnie the Pooh gang, how nobody tries to fix him or change him. They just be on Eeyore. Okay. That everybody's cool with it. All right, come along.
Yeah.
And so it made me feel like kind of like the opposite side of that. Like, oh, if something's wrong with me because I'm told I need to be happy and I'm not. So what's broken? But then like, it came to mind of like sometimes, children will go to their parents and say, do I make you happy? And get this idea in their head that it's their job to make their parents happy. And then I think we do that in society when we see somebody around us who is experiencing, a moment of sadness or something, like we feel like it's our job to make them express happiness. And so there's something wrong with me if I can't make them happy in this moment right now, as opposed to just like, hey man, come along. Could I just be here? I'll be and hold this space with you. Even if I'm feeling happy, I'll try not to like, let it bubble over on you. I'll just be present.
Yeah.
Well, you think about how many relationships, I mean, romantic or otherwise, just kind of go haywire with that kind of false understanding that we're supposed to make each other happy. I mean, I think that there are I mean, we create these, pleasant, positive interactions, but that happiness, like somehow that is the goal for all of our action is supposed to be pointed toward that.
Right.
Supposed to be happy. And so that's exhausting.
Yeah.
That's exhausting. And so, I mean, I like how you did show the difference between the emotion and this kind of mindset.
Yeah.
Whereas that joy, that's a mindset, that's a state of being, that's this state of kind of what we talked about, like the wholeness of our experience. That's joy.
Yeah.
That being in this experience fully. And so I think that's, I mean, that's a really important distinction. And I think especially as we're like learning more about ourselves and learning about our interactions with others and how we can live together in community. I mean, that's just a key thing. Because you're right, Chris. They never tried to make him something that he wasn't. He was okay how he was in that experience. And man, how we've gotten sidetracked from that. Such a simple lesson.
Yeah.
Show.
We would like to take a quick break from the program to let you know a little bit about SEC. We are an intentional spiritual community with a vision of personal transformation and communal evolution, an authentic way of being, living, and viewing the world. Everything you could ever possibly want to know and more can be found on our website at soulevolutioncollaborative.org. So come along for the adventure. Tuesday we have Truth Be Told at 7 p.m. Eastern, which is what you're enjoying now. Thursday, we have our small group, The Gathering, at 7 p.m. Eastern. And so this is a group experience where we take an even closer look at the topic for the week, how it shows up in our own personal lives, and the healing and transformative power of belonging and connection. On Sundays, we have Strip Down Sunday at 12:30 Eastern, where we offer a streamlined approach to your Sunday morning experience through a short and sweet talk on the weekly theme. And coming soon, our SEC Second Sunday Experience, a Sunday evening experience that will demonstrate a new way of doing community. Be on the lookout for these events and so much more. If you can't already tell, we have a blast here at SEC. It's so much fun to explore these topics with you each and every week. And it's our desire to not only share what we've learned, but to journey alongside each of you as we navigate this adventure we call life. Our vision is to bring these teachings to everyday life in new and powerful ways. If you would like to support the vision of SEC and its continued evolution, we invite you to go to soulevolutioncollaborative.org and click on the donate button. All donations are tax deductible and serve to support this evolving ministry and its vision of personal transformation and communal evolution. And now, back to the show.
I bet you didn't know that we all have a baseline level of happiness, and the things that you think might affect it the most really don't. Maybe you didn't know it, but I didn't. So let's look into this. The things that we expect to have a really strong impact on us negatively. So the example that I found was a student at Yale, so like a high achieving college student. And we said, what would happen if you got a B in a class? And their response was, it would be horrible. I wouldn't be able to handle it. It would be devastating. And then that student ends up getting a B. And then they follow up, so what was it like? Was it as bad as you thought? And they're like, surprisingly, no, it wasn't as bad as I thought. So we overestimate that. And then we also overestimate how much we think something like really positive, that we think we'll really love, will affect our level of happiness. It's like getting a new car. Somebody gets that brand new car and you get that initial rush, and then they follow up with this person and say, what's your overall level of happiness now? And they're like, I thought I was going to be a lot happier than this. It kind of like balances out. We get right back to that set baseline. Now, where it gets interesting is the things that we underestimate how much it's going to lift up our happiness level actually do the opposite. So they would ask somebody like, how much would your level of happiness go up if you were able to have a phone call with a friend that you haven't talked to for a while? And the person thinks about it and they're like, it would probably, I could see that making me feel a little happier. And then they initiate that phone call, the person has it, and then they follow up with them afterwards, and then they ask them, how much, what's your level of happiness now? And they're like, it made me feel a lot better than I was expecting. So this is interesting stuff. The things that we tend to underestimate are actually the things that lift us up the most. And these are also the things that lead to longevity of happiness. This goes all the way back to Aristotle, Plato. They used a word called eudaimonia. And what they talked about is if you want to increase genuine authenticity and feelings of happiness and joy in your life, it's important and crucial to live a life of virtue and ethics and integrity and selflessness. Thinking about how we help others around us adds to genuine increase in base level. So it's not the things that you might think of like material wealth and status. These aren't the things that really add to somebody's happiness. It's sometimes even counterintuitive. People that have achieved high levels of income and status often find themselves feeling kind of depressed because they feel like something's wrong with them, because they don't feel an elevated level of happiness that they were expecting when they reached a certain status. So it's almost counterintuitive. So here's the way then to reach out and lift up your own level of happiness at the baseline. Doing good things for others, thinking about others, donating to a cause you believe in, volunteering. And one important thing that I talk about a lot is just mindfulness. Being mindful of everything that you're doing, being mindful of all the emotions that we feel. Just remembering to slow down and smell the roses really does lift up your whole level of appreciation and happiness in life. So the things that are best for us are the things that we have for free.
I love that. The baseline happiness.
Yeah.
Like this kind of baseline. Like that we have this innate kind of blueprint of this
Right.
balance, and the things that we think shifted up and down aren't actually those things. I like that.
Yeah.
It's a really important reminder that sometimes we think that the goal, or for me, I'll have to say me, like the goal is to maintain like this level of happiness or this level of whatever. But in essence, like the balance, like that kind of like that ground zero. I mean, that's how we kind of incarnated here, is this kind of already kind of pre-packaged, here we are. And so it's not getting more, it's coming back to that. Interesting.
Yeah, it actually reminded me of Chris, what you said at the very beginning tonight about Brene Brown's take on numbing, and we so badly, not all of us, not all the time, but when it happens, we so badly want to numb that one emotion, but in doing so, we actually numb all of them. I wonder if the opposite is true. Like, do we try and amplify that one emotion so much? Does it amplify all the other ones? Do we kind of go crazy? Do we lose our sense of, do we lose that tether that kind of keeps us grounded if we're just all over the place? But if we have that like baseline, we, wherever it is, it's like we have that 0 point or whatever, like that neutral. I don't know what the word for that is. It's not neutral. It doesn't feel neutral, but like that comfort zone to go back to, I guess, in certain ways, right? Like, and then on the other hand, it also brings to mind the idea that we often talk about this deepening of an experience, and we deepen our experience in a relationship with someone to let ourselves feel more love, but we're only going to feel as much love to the degree that we're also willing to then risk that the equal amount of grief.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so there's that as well. Like, we deepen the experience, but it grows in both directions, or all directions, really.
Yeah.
And that really takes like an understanding of that idea. Well, back to that idea of enjoyment. Like, can we, to some degree, enjoy the experience, not necessarily from the place of like looking for, like, I really want to feel grief, but like, can we grieve from that place, like that grounded place of like, oh, we can grieve this much about this because we had that much love to give during that experience.
Yeah.
And that's like a whole other.
Well, and that's where, vulnerability comes in. We talked a lot about authenticity and vulnerability, and that these emotions that we were talking about, and this, this idea of connection, because that's what we're seeking, this deep connection and belonging, and you have to be vulnerable. And so that means vulnerable, feeling the emotions, vulnerable to know that, you love hard and then you grieve hard. And so that is that part of vulnerability. And that's uncomfortable because it's kind of this unknown uncertainty sort of realm, but to be able to step out in those ways, that is the recipe for a life that is full and vibrant and expressive and expansive.
Yeah, absolutely. It kind of off subject here, but when you brought up like the amount that you grieve is like kind of proportionate to the amount that you loved, to how that was. But it just reminded me earlier, I was thinking about, like when we're only allowed to express that one emotion of happiness. I was gonna say the one exception is when somebody loses a loved one. And then now it's okay for you to express, but only for a little while.
Oh, yeah, only for, right.
You've done that long enough, and now it's time. Come on, you need to, put that behind you. And how can you, honestly, like when you've loved deeply, like you never get over that loss, and to expect somebody to do that is toxic.
Yeah. And especially when we don't allow those people the space or the room to grieve in a healthy way, or to even feel their feelings in a healthy way. Like, I think that's what's becoming really apparent to me. I mean, this is something we've known, but just super apparent to me the last couple of weeks is the importance of having a healthy understanding of our emotions. And the more emotions we have an understanding of, probably the better. But even just to have an understanding of like the very foundational, like handful of emotions that we probably experience the most. One of the reasons we have this pursuit of happiness is because we're as a whole not content with the nonsense that goes on, right? Because we've squashed all of the experiences that make us human, and so we're trying to reach out and grab onto something else, and so people tend to have a very unhealthy grieving experience because they weren't allowed to have a healthy loving experience or a healthy bonding experience or any. It's like, wow, how much have we just, I want to say, missed out on, but like, how much do we have to relearn to kind of get back what feels like getting back on track? It's important.
And I'm glad we're having like this month to talk about it. I mean, Lord knows they probably could do it for years, but at least to kind of crack the door of this conversation and hopefully engage people in a way that they want to say, I need to read more about that, or I need to talk to someone more about that, or I need to allow myself to feel that and to explore those. I think that this is an important conversation to have. I know I'm learning a lot. Just when you think you know it all, and then there's more stuff to learn.
I know, right? It's almost like there's no destination. It's weird.
Isn't that a relief?
Back to that idea of wishing it away, just both just inspired me like to really lean in and savor it all, because it's this human experience, it'll be gone like quicker than we know. And we're meant to experience that full The spectrum. We talk about the spectrum.
The
So
spectrum.
might as well bring it up again.
It's true.
How awesome it really is.
So the homework for the week is to lean into the emotions, right? To feel them, the prickly ones and the warm fuzzy ones.
I think that's the homework every week.
Yeah. And to see what they have to teach us.
Yeah.
It's all a gift.
Yes, for sure. Thank you, folks, for joining us. And we will see you back here next week.
See you next week.
Next week.